Okay, why did you wait 10 years to publish?
Life happens. I went from, when I left Saudi Arabia, I went back to Oman, and I started teaching again, and I produced my second book called Another Year in Oman in 2008, and this project has just been hanging in the back of my mind forever, but I've been so busy teaching, and my focus is always teaching, that when I start to do this, I'll do a little. I worked on this project for 10 years, and it never got past the first 8 chapters. And then in my last job in Saudi Arabia, I left in 2013. I was working for Raytheon, and I said, I'm going to go home. I've got money now. I'm going to go home and finish this book because I don't want to continue until I finish this project. So this is the third of 3 books, and that's why it took so long, because I was so I was so focused on teaching and being a good teacher that I just didn't spend that much time on it.
Okay, I'm done with the Inquisition.
Well,
let's move on to slightly lighter issues.
I need to dry off from the waterboarding here, Mr. Barrett. grab a towel.
Yeah. I love killing time in Saudi Arabia. And,
well, I appreciate you saying that.
But I'm one of those nasty readers that reads between the lines, and there's this veneer of humor, but when you peel that away, there's a much different book. It's about the clash of cultures, West meets Middle East, and maybe just important in your case, West meets Western PMC, private military contractor culture. I'll stop right there and let you comment.
Well, I think I know what you're driving at here, and what you're trying to get at is that you have 2 cultures that are so adamantly opposed to each other. And I will just answer by saying this: I worked with so many Saudis because the company I worked for, they employed a lot of Saudi Arabians as well as Saudi Arabian nationals, as well as Filipinos and Indians, and the company was mostly ex-military people. And I worked with so many Saudis the Saudis I worked with the most were the most wonderful, for the most part, kind, considerate people, that I met in the Middle East, and they were, Oman is famous for that. The people I had the pleasure to work with were just fine, kind, gentle gentlemen and really considerate. And they all told me, I pray, or not everyone, but they say I have to pray to Allah to forgive me for working with you people. So I think that's the answer to your question. And they are definitely they're schizophrenic. The people who are supporting this military machine because it's a job, but it goes against all their beliefs. So.
Okay. I'll take a different tactic in my waterboarding.
Let me get my snorkel out this time.
Right. I am joking. There's a particularly fine part of the book that I enjoyed greatly. You didn't seem to get along great with Garth Villa, and well, if you read my review, you'll find out that I have a different name for the man, but that's got nothing to do with it. You were teaching in Saudis English, and
right.
I just love the bit about describing car parts, which could not be done in the classroom. So, as I recall, you took them outside and pointed at things. Would you care to share that story?
Yeah, well, that's basically the tail end of a conflict that runs throughout the book between myself and my supervisor, and I really it was one of the final nails in the coffin as far as the relationship between him and myself, because I had done 1-year contract, I had extended, and I didn't want. It just looked to me like it's just this is like a game, and they're going to try to get rid of me and keep all of the money that they owe me and all that kind of stuff. So from that point on, I had to, and I had done it a few times before, but I was really forced to go to the company I was working for their what do you say, their the company that owned them. And this is a multi, these are both multi-billion-dollar multinational groups, but I had to go to this larger company, the parent company, just to make sure that I got out of there in one piece, and that I got out of there financially intact, because it just looked like from the time that I got there, it just looked like they were really. I don't know. There's a continuing game, and that's part of the book, is just this continuing conflict that goes on between myself.
You're looking too deep. I'm talking about taking your students out of the classroom
and being written up for it.
Right, but there's a story within a story. Not all of the students were as good at picking up English as others. So, so you take them outside, and you point to bits of a car, and the question is, what is this?
And the answers come from all the other students.
Right.
Well, I don't talk about that too much. I talk a little bit about the psychology of teaching in Arab countries, a little bit in killing time. But my year in Oman, which was where I'm basically just thrown in front of a group of students with no prior, warning or anything, and just basically fell on my face. It really took me a long time to understand the Arab psyche, and the one thing that teachers now and that any teacher who wants to teach in the Middle East has to understand is you're not teaching one person ever. You're teaching the whole class, and the whole class doesn't work as one student. And Westerners can't understand that and so what we call cheating, they don't really understand that concept. They just understand, I'm just helping my friends. There's nothing wrong with that. So it really drives people crazy. And it was one nice thing about working for that company and teaching at that school is that they were on what is called the Defense Language Institute curriculum, which is set out by the United States military. So all the testing and all that is taken out of the teacher's hands, and it's standardized. And so we didn't have to worry about, the students bothering us about giving them answers to questions on tests or telling them what the exams were about, which was a big problem when I was in Oman.
Yeah, I can understand that. But as a teacher, were you satisfied, or grumpy?
As a teacher, I was happy to be teaching, and it's always been this way in my teaching career. I always love my students. There's a handful of students in 20 years of teaching that I've ever had a problem with, and the rest of them I have loved. It's always been the administrations I've had to work with, or a supervisor or something. And now in Oman, I had really good supervisors, and so there was no real conflict there. So that was the ideal situation. But working for a military contractor, you have people there that are not there for teaching; they're there for money, and so they have alternative or ulterior motives for what they do. And teaching, we were teachers, but the purpose of the whole unit was training soldiers, right? And there's a big difference between teaching students and training soldiers. And so they wanted us to be really hard on these students, and the harder you got on the students, the more you suffered, and then everything came back, including the company itself would come back on you. And so the best thing that I found to do was to just be good to the students, give in to them up to a certain point, and they would take care of you. And that's exactly what happened. As you see throughout the book, there are pictures of me with the Saudis in different settings, and because I was invited many times to people's homes, to weddings, and things like that, which was not normally done to anybody, but just me. So.
Yeah, there's aspects of the book that I have to admit that when I read, I went, "Oh, that's unusual." It seems to me that the clash between West and East, or at least Eastern Moors, you kind of sorta met in the middle ground, and I'm not sure that your Western counterpoints or compatriots agreed with you, particularly not Garth Villa.
Okay. Well, do I just answer yes and then we continue on, or do you want me to elaborate?
Oh, I would love you to elaborate.
All right then. Okay. I went to the Middle East because I had been there before when I was in the Army, and I loved it. And I found it very interesting. When I was in Oman, I traveled to every place I went. If you look at a map of Oman, there's no place that I have not been. And I wanted to do the same thing in Saudi Arabia. I was almost finished with working on my first Oman book, and I really saw so much in Saudi Arabia, and with the terrorism and all that, I saw, well, this is going to be this could be very interesting. But that required, I needed access to get outside, to be outside of the compound. And let me just explain something to you. Why don't more Americans or people write books about the Middle East? Because, there's been millions over there, or at least 1 million, since the War on Terror. You know why they don't? Because they don't go anywhere. They sit in their house, they watch TV, and when their time is up, they get on a plane and they go away. I didn't do that, and I said I would never do that, and that was why I got so much respect from the Arabs, because I was out there living with them, I was doing what they do, and and let me also say, I'm not Muslim, I'm a Christian. I grew up a Latter-day Saint or a Mormon, and they have no problem with that. They were fine to that I was a Christian, and although they tried to recruit me, they didn't really have any problem with it, because they just thought I was a nice person that liked Saudi Arabia. So what created the conflict was when I wanted to go out and I wanted to experience the country, and my contract said that I would have access to vehicles everybody else on the contract had access to a reasonably good piece of transportation, but as an English teacher, we were given the worst of everything, and we were forced to ride around in cars that were basically death traps. And had we ever been attacked or anything, there would have been not one or two people killed. But in one car, they were putting five people packed in. So the conflict between my supervisor and myself that you talk about, and that kind of comes to a head when I try to show the students about the car. That is just because he wanted me to come there and sit in my villa, do my work, and not go anywhere or ask her for anything, because all of the good things that we were given, he had taken. I was just a threat to him. And one of the subplots of the book is that I was in the military, and his supervisor, we trained in the same places in Fort Bragg. So I could just go over my supervisor's head at any time, and more often than not, I needed to do that.
It is so sad, and the question in my mind is the why. Why would Garth Villa? I still have trouble.
Can I